IS 45001 Executive Decision Brief. Welcome. This is the IS 45001 Executive Decision Brief, produced by Management Systems International. If you're watching this, you've been asked, or have chosen, to understand what IS 45001 is and whether your organization should pursue it. This briefing is designed to give you exactly that, a clear leadership-level understanding of what the standard requires, what it means for your organization, and what the next step looks like. Let's get into it. Why this matters now. The first question any executive reasonably asks is, why now? The honest answer is that the landscape has shifted. Worker safety used to be primarily a regulatory obligation managed by operations. Today, it's a business expectation that reaches into customer relationships, contracts, and how your organization is evaluated by partners and stakeholders. Organizations are facing pressure from four converging directions. First, ESG expectations. Customers and business partners are increasingly asking for evidence of workforce safety governance as part of their supplier qualification process. Second, supply chain qualification. ISO 45001 certification is increasingly required for contractor qualification and regulated industry access. Third, regulatory and workforce safety scrutiny. OSHA obligations, incident reporting requirements, and safety-related legal exposure are growing across industries. And fourth, market credibility. Organizations that demonstrate a structured, auditable approach to worker safety are better positioned to win and retain business. The bottom line? ISO 45001 is increasingly becoming a market access requirement, not a discretionary initiative. Organizations that treat it as optional may find that decision made for them by a customer or a regulator. What ISO 45001 actually is. Before going further, it's worth being clear about what this standard is and what it isn't, because there are common misconceptions that can derail a good decision. ISO 45001 is a management system standard. It is focused on governance, accountability, and continual improvement. It is designed to integrate with your existing business processes. That's what it is. What it is not. It is not a product mandate or a technology requirement. It is not a prescriptive safety performance standard that tells you exactly what your incident rates must be. And it is not an operational redesign of your business. Think of it this way. ISO 45001 gives you the framework to identify your organization's occupational health and safety hazards and risks, and to manage them in a structured, auditable way. The framework is yours to define within your scope. The standard governs how you manage it, not what the outcome must look like numerically. Risk of not acting now. Let's talk about what happens if an organization chooses to delay. There are four consistent risks that emerge for organizations that defer occupational health and safety system development. First, disqualification. From customer opportunities, contracts, or supply chain relationships where certification is required. Second, reactive OHS responses. When a customer, partner, or regulator asks for safety documentation and nothing formal is in place, the response is typically uncoordinated and expensive. Third, increased compliance and regulatory exposure. Organizations without a formal system are more likely to miss legal obligations or respond to incidents poorly. And fourth, the cost and disruption of late adoption. Organizations that build systems under pressure consistently spend more and experience more disruption than those that implement on a planned timeline. The statement at the bottom of this slide is worth carrying. Planned implementation is consistently less disruptive than reactive compliance. And in occupational health and safety, reactive compliance often follows an incident, which carries costs and consequences that go well beyond the system itself. Strategic fit with ISO 9001 and ISO 14001. For organizations that are already certified to ISO 9001 or ISO 14001, this slide is particularly relevant. ISO 45001 uses the same high-level structure and language as both ISO 9001 and ISO 14001, what's known as the Annex SL, or high-level structure. That means leadership, planning, audits, and management review are already shared processes. Your team already knows how to operate within a management system framework. In practical terms, ISO 45001 typically adds 2 to 3 system elements to an existing management system framework, not a new infrastructure. You're building directly on what's already in place, not starting over. For organizations without existing ISO certification, the same path applies. The integration just begins with this standard rather than building on an existing one. And many organizations find that implementing ISO 45001 creates a natural foundation for adding ISO 14001 or ISO 9001 afterward. What implementation actually requires? Executives often assume that implementing a management system standard means hiring new people, shutting down operations, or making significant capital investments. This slide addresses that directly. What ISO 45001 actually requires is executive sponsorship and leadership direction, cross-functional coordination, identification of your organization's hazards, risks, and legal OHS obligations, and integration of the system into existing procedures and reviews. What it does not require: new departments, immediate capital investment, or operational shutdowns. The system is built around your organization as it already operates. The work is in documenting, structuring, and governing what you're already doing, and identifying where occupational health and safety hazards and obligations need to be managed more formally. Strategic value beyond compliance. Let's step back from the compliance framing for a moment, because organizations that implement ISO 45001 well tend to experience benefits that go well beyond avoiding risk. 4 outcomes show up consistently: proactive hazard identification and OHS risk management. Organizations with a formal system identify and address hazards before they become incidents, injuries, or liabilities. Stronger ESG credibility, particularly on the social component with customers, investors, and stakeholders who are increasingly scrutinizing workforce safety performance. Reduced incident rates and improved safety culture. A well-implemented OHS management system creates visibility and accountability that drives real reductions in workplace incidents over time. And long-term business resilience. Organizations that govern their safety obligations proactively are better positioned as regulations tighten and customer expectations evolve. The closing thought on this slide is an important one for executives. ISO 45001 is about governance and control, not incident elimination overnight. You don't need to have solved your safety challenges to implement the standard. You need to have a system for managing them. Role of top management. This slide is directed specifically at executive leadership because the standard has clear expectations about the role of top management, and those expectations cannot be outsourced or delegated away. Executive leadership is responsible for 4 things under ISO 45001. Setting the strategic direction and intent for the occupational health and safety management system. Approving the scope and allocating the resources necessary. Establishing the OHS policy and objectives. And reviewing performance and ensuring accountability. The note at the bottom of this slide is worth reading aloud. ISO 45001 cannot be delegated as a compliance exercise. The standard requires visible, active leadership commitment. If the executive team is not engaged, the system will not sustain. And more importantly, Neither will the safety culture it's designed to build. This is not an unusual requirement. It mirrors what ISO 9001 and ISO 14001 expect of top management as well. But it is worth being honest about. This standard requires your involvement, not just your signature. Leadership decision considerations. We're now at the decision point of the briefing. Before recommending a next step, there are 4 questions worth sitting with as a leadership team. First, are OHS and safety expectations already affecting your customers, contracts, or bids? If the answer is yes, or if you're seeing early signals, the urgency is real. Second, would delay increase your cost, risk, or disruption? Given what we covered on the risk of inaction slide and the unique consequences of an OHS incident, the answer for most organizations is yes. Third, does ISO 45001 align with your strategic direction, values, and duty of care? For most organizations with employees, contractors, or regulated operations, it does. And fourth, is your leadership team prepared to sponsor a structured approach? The framing on this slide is intentional. For many organizations, the question is when, not if. The decision before you today is really about whether you want to implement on your timeline or in response to an incident or a customer ultimatum. Implementation timeline. So, what does implementation actually look like? This slide gives you a clear picture of the typical path from decision to registration. The full timeline is approximately 4 to 6 months, organized into 5 phases, followed by ongoing activities. Before Phase 1 begins, we recommend an OHS Strategic Planning session, a facilitated engagement where MSI prepares, conducts an on-site session with your leadership team, and delivers a strategic framework. This ensures implementation is built on your organization's actual strategy, not a generic task list. Leadership then authorizes implementation to proceed. Phase 1 is the kickoff and scope confirmation, roughly 2 to 3 weeks. Your scope is confirmed and the system design is established based on the strategic framework. A complete facility walkthrough is conducted for hazard identification. Phase 2 is documentation development, approximately 6 weeks. Your OHS manual, procedures, and supporting documented information are developed. Document review and approval is the critical path. Delays here impact the entire schedule. Phase 3 is training and implementation, 4 to 6 weeks. Staff receive ISO 45001 overview training, and the system is put into practice across affected functions. Phase 4 covers internal audits and management review, 2 to 4 weeks. Your internal audit program is completed, corrective actions are addressed, and management reviews the system's performance for the first time. Phase 5 is the audit process, approximately 4 to 6 weeks, including the scope audit 30 days prior, and then the 2 to 4 day registration audit conducted by an ANAB accredited third-party certification body. Once registered, ongoing activities include annual surveillance audits and continual improvement. The system is designed to sustain and grow over time. Organizations already certified to ISO 9001 or ISO 14001 typically complete this path at the lower end of the range. Proposed next step. OHS Strategic Planning Session. Which brings us to the proposed next step. We are not recommending a gap assessment. In our experience, gap assessments produce a task list, and a task list approach to ISO 45001 leads to a system built around checking boxes rather than around your organization's actual safety strategy and operations. That produces a system that is harder to sustain and harder for your people to connect with. Instead, we recommend beginning with an OHS Strategic Planning session. This is a facilitated engagement designed to build your occupational health and safety management strategy from the ground up, holistically, with leadership involved and integrated into how your organization actually operates. The structure is straightforward. 1 day of preparation by MSI, reviewing your organization, your operations, and any existing systems. 1 full day on-site with your leadership team to work through scope, strategic context, OHS obligations, hazards, and objectives together. And a half-day follow-up in which MSI delivers written outputs, an OHS strategic framework, implementation roadmap, and resource plan. The investment is $3,250, 2.5 days at $1,300 per day, plus travel. What happens after the session? Your leadership team has the strategic foundation in place. Implementation begins with clear direction and full organizational alignment, and your people understand why the system exists, not just what it requires. Recommendation and next step. The final slide brings this together. For organizations with ISO 9001 or ISO 14001 certification, ESG and workforce safety obligations, or growth into regulated or international markets, proceeding with ISO 45001 is strategically sound, increasingly expected, and the right thing to do for your people. The recommended next step is to authorize an OHS strategic planning session, and then proceed with full implementation from a clear strategic foundation. To schedule your session, or to learn more about MSI's SurePath program and ongoing implementation support, reach out to us at msi-international.com or call 888-914-9141. Thank you for your time. We look forward to working with your organization.
My name is Diana Lin, and I'm the founder of Management Systems International, development of all of our solutions. For over 2 decades, MSI has helped organizations like yours build management systems that are not just certifiable, but genuinely useful to the business. If what you've heard today resonates, I'd welcome the conversation. Whether you're ready to schedule your EMS strategic planning session or simply want to talk through where your organization stands, we're easy to reach. Visit us at msi-international.com, call us at 888-9149-141, or send us an email at info@msi-international.com. You'll also find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and our other social channels. At MSI, our focus is simple: rapidly multiplying our customers' value. We look forward to doing that for you.